210,000 Americans dead, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Americans mourning them. 7.4 million Americans have contracted the disease. Many of them are going to have health problems for the rest of their life. For President Trump, who gets the best medical care of anybody in the world, to say, don't be afraid of COVID, don't let it dominate your life. There are children who don't have parents now because of this virus. Don't let it dominate your life?
This is a really important exchange between Jake Tapper and Sanjay Gupta, not just because Jake Tapper called out Donald Trump in a very spectacular fashion, but because of how Sanjay Gupta breaks it down. Please take a second and watch the entire thing.
Gupta. But so Sanjay, before I ask you about your medical expertise, I just want to take a second here. President Trump wrote on Twitter, don't be afraid of COVID, don't let it dominate your life. Almost 210,000 Americans are dead from this disease, meaning hundreds of thousands of people in this country are mourning. Oh, look at that, we just reached 210,000 since I've been on air. 210,000 Americans dead, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Americans mourning them. 7.4 million Americans have contracted the disease. Many of them are going to have health problems for the rest of their life. For President Trump, who gets the best medical care of anybody in the world, to say, don't be afraid of COVID, don't let it dominate your life. There are children who don't have parents now because of this virus. Don't let it dominate your life?
I mean, Jake, this is so disrespectful. I'm not even sure I can speak about this in some sort of cogent way here. I just, I know people who right now, family members who have lost people, and they watch they watch our programming, and it's incredibly disrespectful. It's obviously not true in the sense that we know he knows how serious this is. He's known how serious it is since the beginning of February. He's just gone through this himself now. It's a total cognitive dissonance even within his own mind. What he believes and what he says are diametrically opposed at this point. Not to mention, don't be afraid of it, almost then encourages this completely dangerous, non-scientific approach of herd immunity. Basically saying, don't be afraid. What does that mean, don't be afraid of it? I mean, first of all, it's a contagious disease that kills people. So what are you going to be afraid of if you're not afraid of something like that? Also, are you advocating that people then go get infected? Nothing to be afraid of? We know if that is the policy, if that's the approach, 2 million people could die. Hospitals would become overwhelmed.
This is such a critical point, and I had to pause it right here. We'll get right back to it. But Donald Trump's tweet suggesting that there's nothing to be afraid of, don't let it dominate your life, is exactly doing what Sanjay Gupta is describing. Donald Trump is indirectly advocating for herd immunity, which is suggesting that people should just go on about their lives. If they get infected, they can overcome. Never mind the fact that they won't get the type of care or treatment that Donald Trump got. It will lead to at least 2 million people dying in this country. Let's get back to the exchange.
It would cause millions more infections. It's just there's nowhere to even begin with some of this, Jake, in terms of responding to a comment like that. It's gross. It really is. In terms of how people will take that, as you point out, the hundreds of thousands of people who died. And another thing those family members don't like me to say, but needs to be said, is that no one likes to think of their loved ones as having died a preventable death. Right? That's the last thing they want to hear. And yet so many of these deaths, I'm sorry to the people who are listening, dealing with this, but so many of those deaths were preventable.
Can you imagine trying to give some type of meaning to your family member's death only to realize the sad reality that they died for no reason, that this could have been prevented, and it could have been prevented by one man, Donald Trump, and that man is now saying it's nothing to fear. I understand why these family members don't want to hear this, because it compounds insult to injury, and it would be enraging. And for them to deal with this difficult time, they have to believe that their family member died with a purpose. But the sad reality is they died because Donald Trump cared more about his campaign than he did their lives.
It's true. It's just true.
Of course it's preventable. And Dr. Fauci acknowledged it back in April or May when I interviewed him. If they had acted sooner, and if they'd acted more effectively, and if the businesses hadn't been reopened before they should have reopened, before, if states hadn't been pressured to reopen before they should have been reopened, if testing was up to snuff, and I could go on and on. I just want to say to anybody out there who's watching who has either lost somebody to this virus or is grappling with it or has somebody in their life who is grappling with it? Because I know young, healthy people who've had this virus who are still not fully recovered and may never be because of the damage to their lungs. I just want them to know that there are plenty of us out here who understand that it's okay to be afraid of COVID, and it's okay that it's dominating your life, because it has dominated your life. And the idea that the President of the United States out there is, because he feels fine, maybe that's because of a steroid, I don't know, that he's saying this is so disrespectful to you. And I just want you to know that you're not alone if you're out there just shocked that this kind of callous indifference would be relayed by the person who's actually charged with protecting you from this virus.
And that's the entire point. Donald Trump went through this entire episode this weekend going to the hospital, whether he went, whether he was sick or not, whether he got fast recovery or not. All of that is immaterial. What he was always going to do was going to use this experience as a way of encouraging herd immunity, as a way of telling people that it's not that bad. And this is what he's pushing. And so it is incumbent upon us to make sure that nobody that we know falls for this foolishness. We can't save everyone, but we can save as many people as we can. Do not listen to the President of the United States, because the President of the United States will get you killed.